Dang, I'm third. I'm leaving.
Get out of here.
Sorry for being late, Ben and Trevor. I'm sorry.
We're just gonna do a bunch of FF7.
Just means this part is that much shorter.
What?
Because you're late, man.
Bruh, I drove as fast as I could. I just came from a baseball game, and I was umpiring, and I was trying to get it done so fast.
You're calling outs on...
No. But the thing is, Ferris's team is so bad, and they put in this kid who just could not throw strikes, and he walked like 7 straight people. I was putting anything within range. I was trying to help the kid out and giving him strikes, like anything reasonable. But he was throwing it like 20 feet over the plate, like 20 feet over their heads, and I was like, cool. I can't even try to call that a strike.
That's a strike. No, man, that's a...
It is kind of my fault because I could only do LPs today, but the game was also supposed to be yesterday, and of course everything goes wrong.
God intervened and said no. It has to be.
And it only rained. It only rained for 20 minutes, but it was enough to like completely flood everything. Anyway, we got FF7 Remake.
I want to hear you throw more shade at this kid.
What
It's
kid?
like 7-year-old or whatever.
No, he's like 9 or 10. He's a really good.
Basically a professional.
He's a really good kid. But it was the first time like they ever used him, or like in a long time, and I was like, guys, can we just put someone in who can throw strikes box?
So you guys, the kids practice. Is that correct?
What do you mean?
As in they before they do these games, they have like a weekly practice or something of the sort?
Yeah.
And have they tried them during practice?
Maybe, but the thing with kids is it's completely different during the game.
That's right.
So
I suppose I can't be taking too much joy. Actually, you know what? I really like this story because I used to often fantasize or daydream when I was playing soccer during the games, and
I think that's just how it is.
that's fun. It's fun to be playing, wishing you were playing a video game while you were playing a sports game.
Yeah, I played baseball until I think I did it until middle school, like 8th grade, 9th grade. And I hated every second of it. I did it for like 6 years. Hated every second.
Rip.
But it taught you important skills.
Sure.
Yeah.
Ferris likes it. He just knows like nothing about baseball, so we're learning every day. He got a walk today. It's pretty good.
Oh, nice.
So far this year, he has a single and a walk.
Not bad.
Yeah. Considering he literally never played baseball before like a couple months ago.
That's better than I've done in my entire life, so.
Let's go.
So what are we doing here again?
Oh, yeah, you weren't here for last part. We went through
sorry, side note. Why wasn't I here for that last part?
You said no because you were busy.
Did I say
And
that?
you had a hot date or something.
Okay, because I kind of...
It was a couple Fridays from now, and you were like, "Man, I'd love to come, but I have a."
It's in the future?
Huh?
A couple Fridays from now?
From now means forward and back.
Anyway, what happened last part was we went through the train section, and that's pretty long. It was pretty much just that, finishing up the rest of the slums and then the train. There was an extra boss that they added, but the boss is pretty easy, so meh.
Wait.
Tifa's in our party now.
Yeah.
Oh, and then we did that. Did you play this game? I forget.
No, I haven't.
We did this part where you're like really, really, really high. You're like on the plate, looking down on the slums. Huh?
Nothing.
Oh.
YouTube channel. But you were really high on the plate.
Yeah, and you were like looking down on the plate or on the slums, and it was pretty scary.
Yeah, there's a part like it in the original where it's like connected to the underground train section, but they expanded upon it a lot. There's like 4 big lamps they have to turn off to open a door, and it's probably the most intricate level in the entire game. Weirdly,
Yes.
Oh, like, oh, this is a pretty good set piece that we never really took advantage of in the first game. Let's expand upon it.
The first time you play, there's a lot to do because there's a lot of minor material you can get that's kind of unique this early on, and also you can do a lot of stuff to get the Chocobo and Mog summon materia. And the first time I played this game, I didn't even know it existed. Also, another thing I found out like a week ago is that there's a Cactar summon materia, but it was exclusive to the deluxe edition. So I don't have that.
You couldn't get it. You couldn't get it even like if you
I
wanted
hate
to spend
that.
like $3 on it or whatever.
I bet you could just like buy a code on eBay. I don't know if you can buy it separately, but that sucks.
That's so stupid.
Yeah, I don't like that at all.
This place reeks of muck.
Looks like we made it.
It's not like summons are necessarily that useful because they are so you can only use them during like very big set piece battles.
Yeah. Your Mako storage.
Excuse me. Yeah, it's like a mixture of like. It kind of reminds me a little bit of the Final Fantasy X summons, but then also like did Final Fantasy 12 have summons? I know it was more of like an action RPG, but it's kind of like a mixture of all of them.
Yeah, Final Fantasy X. I mean, it gets rid of all your party members. This one's more like autonomous. Like they'll attack you if you don't direct commands to them. Final Fantasy 12 doesn't really have summons.
I never played 12.
I feel like a lot of people haven't played 12.
Final Fantasy 13 summons are very similar to Final Fantasy X's, where it gets rid of some party members.
Somehow I played like half of 13 and none of 12, which is weird, because 13 is very boring.
12 is very different. I mean, I don't know. It takes place in Evilus, but for a mainline Final Fantasy, especially the battle system, and like the entire plot is all just about like medieval fantasy politics. So I can definitely see some people being like, I'm bored of this game.
It's definitely an Evilist game. It's focused on medieval fantasy politics.
Yeah. And it doesn't help that the main character, Vaughn, is so disconnected to the plot and the characters. He's just along for the ride.
I was surprised that I liked this game as much as I did, because normally I'm more of like a turn-based kind of person. Like, I prefer that. But, I mean, we're at the point, and Trevor can correct me if I'm wrong, but unless it's like a really obscure JRPG, we're at the point where they're all going to be at least this action RPG level.
Yeah, and also, the original Final Fantasy VII, I guess just because I played it a billion times, but that game is so easy. Vanilla Final Fantasy VII, once you know about Big Guard and enemy skill, and just certain combos, like, the game plays itself.
True, though.
Yeah, that's the thing about, like turn-based RPGs. Like, if you remove the skill aspect, the reaction time aspect, it really becomes a matter of, like, getting it and then, like, looking online and being like, oh yeah, just do this for every battle and it's fine, you'll win.
I know, and that's...
I mean, as a kid, I definitely remember some parts being hard. Like, I don't know, the sewer monster, I forget what it's called.
Yeah.
That's
Raps?
yeah.
Yeah, Raps, that's right.
And, I don't know, just like, I can't think of any names right now. The mech that you fight right before you get into the submarine, that's definitely a fight that I remember being in.
Proud Claude?
It's the crane machine, I forget what it's called.
What did I know?
H26 something. I know what you're talking about, though. That one is a speedrun killer, I know, from watching some FF7 speedruns. Yeah, I guess that's the thing with JRPGs. You can always just, like, power level if you want to, or find, like, you know, like, oh, Tifa with Death Blow in FF7 makes things, like, way easy. That's why, you know, FF8, the enemies level with you. Although you can power level by just, like, just going into a battle and just drawing. But it's the same thing as power leveling.
Yeah.
When people complain about that, I'm like, that's the same thing as just getting to level 40 early on in FF7. It's the same thing.
And that's why
It's actually way easier.
FF8 is so weird because initial level playthroughs are literally easier than max level playthroughs, just because enemies scale with you, And if you just junction everything at initial level, I mean, Ultima attack, and you just spam Squall's Limit Break over and over every single turn, the game, it's just over. The game's over.
Yeah. That was a tough decision they made with the, if you're in yellow, caution for your HP.
I can understand the basics, like, they probably thought that no one's gonna junction 100 meteors to defense and spirit, and you don't take any damage.
Yeah.
But the fact that you have like a 25% chance of proccing your limit break every single time, and you can just spam like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's,
I mean, it's just every Final Fantasy
Yeah.
turn-based one. Final Fantasy X, the late game is literally just spamming quick hit every turn. So you just get to that min-max mode. But what I really like about this game is that since level cap's 50, and really the only thing you can do the power level is level materia, and even materia you can only equip 10 max. And like that's a huge limitation, especially for like, we're gonna probably play as Eris later this part. And Eris, you just want to equip like 20 materia too, but you can't. So you have to like be like, okay, HP up, MP up, MP up, magic up, magic up. That's 6 slots already. You only have 4 left. So I think it's balanced really well.
I don't think I'm gonna continue with what Ben was saying, and I don't think JRPGs were meant to be hard. Like after the original Final Fantasy or whatever, I think it's more about like obviously the world building, the story. I've never played a JRPG because I'm like, man, I want a hard game.
There's only a couple, like the SMT games are pretty hardcore focused, but a lot of them, they're mostly there for just to elongate the game because the main selling point is the story and the characters.
Yeah, I mean it's different for everyone, but like I'm not saying I want it to be so easy that stuff dies in one hit or whatever, but I don't know, like, I've never been like, oh man, I wish this game was harder, like, because there usually is an optional boss or two that you can do at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially later on, turn-based Final Fantasies, like, Final Fantasy X is, like, the main quest is, like, fairly easy. There's some spikes, like, I know the Seymour, the third Seymour fight is really hard. But, like, when you get to the post-game, especially the international version or the HD version, and you have, like, the Dark Aeons and Penance, those are so overwhelmingly more powerful than the main game that you have this point where, like, you finish the game and you're getting the ultimate weapons and you randomly stumble upon a Dark Aeon because they just randomly appear sometimes. And you get one shot in one turn. It's like, okay, I guess I gotta grind the sphere grid for the next 20 hours.
The final boss in the international version, Penance, they cap FF10 at 99999, and you can take 100,000 every single hit, and it still takes like 45 minutes to fight it.
Yeah, it's like an hour fight because he has 10 million HP, and like Penance is a fight that like, if you don't know what you're doing, he will set up an avoidable combo where your entire team will be wiped, even if you have auto life on. So you have to not only do like $500,000 damage per turn. We also constantly have to mix with Riku to have like the max like debuffs and like always have auto life and make sure that everything's perfect every turn. It is monotonous.
Yeah. That's why some of the old school Final Fantasies have bosses that don't necessarily have a ton of life, but they're very hard. Like I think it's Atma weapon in Final Fantasy V, it like does not have a ton of HP, but like it's one of those kind of like it's over in 4 or 5 turns whether you win or lose kind of thing, which I like that. I appreciate that.
I just wanted to point out that the group was defeated by a ladder ascending.
Yep.
Despite Cloud doing all this stuff like right now, and then I remember the motorcycle chase antics. But I guess cutscene Cloud is just a
What are you supposed to do about a ladder?
Very slowly ascending in front of you.
I mean, but the initial shock is just insane.
I guess there's nothing I can do. That's right, Barrett.
Okay, Barrett.
But
Yeah, I mean, I pointed that out, like, I think 1 or 2 sit-downs ago, but, like, Cloud can randomly jump 50 feet in the air, and then other times he'll get, completely blocked by a ladder.
But to your point about JRPGs being very boring and dumb, and having no challenge for them whatsoever,
Is that what I said?
I think that's what everyone said, except for the thing where you were describing the most monotonous boss of all time.
I mean, my thing is,
It sounds truly horrible to play.
Yeah, it's zero fun at all.
if you want a game to be hard, play like a Devil May Cry or some like action-focused games. Like JRPGs are meant to be engrossed with the story, have side quests, have a lot of time you can put into it, get engrossed in the world. For me, that's what it is.
And we're speaking as people that played dozens of JRPGs for so many years. I mean, I remember when I first played Final Fantasy VIII, like, what's the guy's name? Adele? Or what's
Adel?
Adel. And he has Renault on his, like, back or chest. That fight is impossible if you're a stupid kid.
Dude, that was hard.
Because you're like, the enemies
You're
are...
a stupid adult. Different story.
I am a stupid adult.
All I have to say is eyes on me.
Now let's see what these bastards were
Good
up
song.
to.
Unironically, good song.
Yeah.
Find something?
I mean, that's one of those things. If you speedrun FF8, since that song has to be played the whole way through, you have to sing it every time.
Yeah, that's true. That's right. But as far as my RPG sensibilities, I've come around a little bit more to. Well, actually, I've always kind of been partial to the tactical RPG, the Fire Emblems and whatnot. I feel like they tend to offer a little bit
Try that key card.
more like a different way of thinking, or challenge rather, even if it is kind of RNG BS. It comes down to. It's about minimizing the RNG BS.
Yep. So what we're doing right now is that this entire reactor is a big setup for the Airbuster fight, and you can either you have these key cards that you can basically downgrade him in terms of either like removing his big bomber shells or just removing his or lessening his mobility with his AI programming chips. You also have the option to divert something called M units, which are basically just items, but we don't need to do that at all. I'm going to be trying to divert all the AI cores. The big bomber shells are not a huge deal.
I love the setup of that, where you can, like, with this boss, kind of set it up exactly how you want to fight it, which is pretty cool. I can't think of another game like it, where it's like, do you want it to be weaker this way or this way? Like, I don't know. It's very unique.
It is pretty cool, yeah.
I can think of one example.
Tell me.
Well, I don't know if it's necessarily like weakening the boss, but Metal Gear Solid 3, when you see them wheeling the end out and you're able to just straight up snipe them.
I think that's...
Oh, I have a
That's
perfect.
weak- that's
I have a
weakening
perfect
them
example.
Straight to 0%.
I think that's different.
I have a perfect example. You remember in Paper Mario when you're doing the Peach segments, and you can tell one of Bowser's minions what Mario's greatest weakness is?
Oh, yeah!
And you can choose, like, enemies or a mushroom. That's... hello?
Now that's cool.
Hi.
Hello?
Hey, what's
Dies.
up? I'll just chill up here.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. Oh, man. Paper Mario... Oh. You know what's funny? People have
Why
been
did I
waiting.
pick that up?
People have been waiting literally 20 years for just another Paper Mario like Thousand Year Door, and Nintendo just won't do it.
Yeah.
Their Super
They're
Paper Mario is a 2D/3D like hybrid, and then what? Everything else are just these god awful turn-based RPGs that don't use any skill. Like
Yeah,
Sticker Star.
Sticker Star was the beginning of it, and Sticker Star is like an anti-game. It has absolutely nothing going for it. It has no story, all the characters, there's no like original characters at all, it's just Mario and Goombas and Koopas and Bowser.
All people want is a Paper Mario game where there's like a story, and there's people that go along with you. That's all they want.
The really frustrating thing is that the two games since, Nintendo is making these baby steps back to the original Paper Mario design. Like you have Color Splash, which is like a little bit more unique. but like it has the same problem where like the story's boring and like there's no cool characters. And then Origami King, again, they changed it up more. The land is more outlandish. There's more like unique characters, but it's just not there yet. And I don't know why they're so hesitant just not to give us the thing we want.
I'd like to see a Mario and Luigi game on the Switch. That's always been a pretty solid series.
And I remember in an interview that I don't know if it was Miyamoto or someone else, maybe the director of Paper Mario, but basically they were like, we don't want to have two Mario RPG series because Mario and Luigi was still alive and Alpha Dream wasn't bankrupt yet. But at this point, Alpha Dream is dead, Mario and Luigi, the series is dead, so just make Paper Mario an RPG again.
1,000 gills since they cut this out.
We don't want to have two of something good. Okay.
And like, even when Paper Mario and Mario and Luigi were going side by side, they're so different.
Is that why they won't make, like, Metroid Prime 4? Because they just don't want to have two different Metroid series at the same time?
Well, Dread is basically 4. I mean, Fusion is already Metroid 4.
No, I said Metroid Prime 4?
Oh. That restarted development.
Oh my god.
A couple years ago, actually. Retro's working on it again, but Retro hasn't put out a game since 2014. I don't know what they are doing.
What do they normally make? Or just Metroid?
They did Metroid Prime 1, 2, and 3, and then did the Donkey Kong games. But ever since 2014, they did Tropical Freeze, and then has released nothing since. I mean, they did the port for Tropical Freeze, I guess.
Imagine being able to still be a company 8 years later without releasing
Especially
anything.
with Nintendo being your boss. Like, what happened? They must have had some big project that, like, they just canceled. I can't even think. They have to employ an entire staff.
Oh, here we go.
It would be
Just
pretty.
one more turn.
It would be pretty funny if Trevor hit the guy down to like 0 HP, and he was like, "No, I'm still typing." Then all of a sudden, he just dies out of nowhere. Blech.
Oh, I think there was.
So I know that this time of year is always rough for like new games like being announced and stuff, but dude, there is like nothing coming out. Like it's crazy.
I think we touched on this a couple sit-downs
Yeah.
ago.
I know, but like literally, like from
Nothing since.
a CIB standpoint, I'm like, we like to have a bunch of box arts for new games coming out, and it's like, what's coming out?
Yeah, for Nintendo,
Yeah.
it's like Xenoblade 3. Splatoon 3 has an actual release date. I think it's like August, so that'll be pretty decent. Pokemon, obviously, in the holidays. But Breath of the Wild got delayed. There's no Mario or Donkey Kong.
Mario, there's a Mario soccer game in June. There's what's that other one? There's another Switch game coming out, but there's like nothing. It's crazy.
Yeah, Bayonetta 3 has been in development for like 5 years now.
Microsoft doesn't make games.
Oh,
you know?
yeah, the two big exclusives that Microsoft had was Starfield, which is the Todd Howard group.
11/11.
But that got delayed.
Wait, past November?
Yeah.
Oh dang.
And
Oh,
they also
yeah,
had
that was-
Redfall, which was made by Arcane, who did Deathloop and like Dishonored. Microsoft owns them now, but that also got delayed till next year.
Well, they just did Deathloop. It was not released that long ago.
Yeah, but Arcane has multiple development studios in it, so it was both studios were not working on like the same project at
okay.
all,
Does
as far as I'm aware.
I'm trying to think of like all of Sony's big things. Like I don't know. I know it's around the time of E3, except for I think E3 doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah,
like they stopped doing it.
I mean, they basically just announced games on like social media. Now.
Yeah.
Not
But
a huge ton.
But I'm
for-
still like, and I know May is usually the toughest time because that's right before E3 when they announce all this new stuff. But it's like, I do a little printout where I'm like, hey, here's new games coming out, and I have like 3 games with firm dates on it. That's it. Like there's like nothing else.
Yeah, and Sony released like a bunch of games all back to back. Like they did Horizon Forbidden West, Gran Turismo 7, and MLB 22.
Oh yeah.
Like all within 1 month, but I think the rest of the year they don't have anything in terms of first party games. I don't know why they released everything all at once. Like save Gran Turismo 7 until like holidays.
Is it really just like from November to like January, March, whatever, that like all the game releases are like coagulated around?
Yeah, it's pretty much February, March, and then late September through November. Usually, the only company that has the cojones to come out with a game in December, like a big one, is Nintendo. It's very rare for like Call of Duty December 10th.
Oh, yeah, that's
but like
right.
Nintendo will be like, "Yo, Mario Odyssey's December 10th. Deal with it."
Yeah, and like EA, like Battlefield's always October generally. All the sports games obviously come out like August to October. Although that works for their seasons, I guess.
Yeah, it somehow works out that way.
It's just crazy. Like, I guess they expect people to be like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna play this for like 6 months, which works sometimes, but like, damn.
Yeah, I don't even. EA games, EA sports games are so bad that, I mean, Madden 22 has been out for, what, 9-10 months, and we have plenty of copies, and I've never even bothered to bring one home and be like, let me check it out, because it's just so bad.
I wouldn't either.
Heidegger's not gonna like that.
And I want to like a football game, but
Yeah,
Madden
apparently the
sucks.
2K NBA games also like are really bad too. Because all these sports games, all they care about is online stuff, selling microtransactions.
Yep.
So like all the EA games only care about Ultimate Team, and like NBA 2K also has like a lottery system where you can get like legacy basketball players or something like that. I don't know how exactly that works.
Did Resident Evil Village ever have any DLC? Like, just doesn't exist?
Capcom
announced
said
yet.
that they were going to release some, but the game came out a year ago. Why would they bother
It
now?
came out literally a year ago. It was last May.
No, I mean, I feel like if we hear about any like DLC, it'll be within a few months, or we're just not getting it. But like the thing is, I feel like the game sold better than they expected, so they maybe initially weren't planning on DLC, but then they were like, oh wait, this game's like pretty popular, so
I mean, they came out with like 3 or 4 DLCs for Village, or excuse me, for Biohazard.
Yeah, but it's like, but at the same time, like, you know, they kind of like failed to strike while the iron is hot. Like you said, the game is a year old, so and it's a single player game.
Yeah.
So like the DLC is not gonna have the same like appeal like as like, you know, you have a base game and it's maybe has a heavy multiplayer component, and then you release an expansion later, like a year later, like maybe at the latest, that really expands upon that.
You know what?
Then you can justify it then, but single player, I don't know.
You know what I'd like to know? This obviously wouldn't count with digital stuff because it is what it is, but like, what the average length someone keeps a new release for? Like, say, like, they physically pick up Resident Evil Village. Like, what's the average length that person who bought it new is gonna still have it, you know? It's gotta be, like, 3-4 months. You know, because nowadays, if you are gonna buy physical and you beat it, and you're not gonna keep it forever, you really ought to sell it within the first couple of months.
Yeah, some of us do keep everything we buy forever.
And that's fine, I do the same thing myself, but there's a lot of people, I mean, it gets expensive to buy new games, so, you know, hypothetically, if a new game ever came out again, you would want to trade in last new game.
Yeah. That's right. I gotta say, the only, like, I've gotten to the point where, like, my new game purchases are so, it's basically, I'm guaranteed to like it. I'm not...
Makes sense.
Because I've got, like, maybe 3 different lanes, genre-wise, that I go in, and the only new release, I think, in the past, like, decade that I've ever regret is Battlefield 2042.
RIP.
Yeah, that game was a disaster.
Yeah, and
That game is already like less than $20 used.
I thought it was gonna be another case where, like, oh, okay, like, it's really bad on release, but they're gonna turn it, and the ship has not turned around. Granted, it's only been 6 months, and the kind of issues that are present in that game are a longer scale than 6 months.
But that goes
the revenue is
that goes into my like, I guess, major point of how long would someone keep a game, or like, even if you digitally own the game, how long are you going to give it a chance?
Well, Steam makes it really hard for you to get a refund after 2 hours of playtime, which is about how long it took me to figure out what was going on with my frame rate.
Rip.
So I was like, well, I did end up getting like 50 hours of playtime
Wow.
into it. Which, so, I guess in that sense, like, I paid like $1.20 or something.
Yeah, for an hour.
Don't,
Hey.
yeah.
So there was
like, okay, fine.
Ben, there was this period of time where I was on a Steam kick where I would just find the absolute worst rated horror games that were $2 and under. And you can imagine that it was
That sounds fun.
truly off. I mean, some you can ask Trev. Some of them were like fun, goofy, awful, and some were just like,
Yeah,
what the hell?
Unity asset flips.
Yeah, literally. Whenever you saw made by Unity, you're like, oh my! I learned what Unity is. And there was, I forget which game it was, there was a game that was so bad and so broken that I was like, you know what? I'm going to request a refund, and I requested a refund on a 99-cent game. I would never do that in my life. You know what I mean? Like, not just because it's a buck, but because it's like some like indie game, but I was like, screw this guy. Whoever made this, screw him.
It's like, you do not deserve this.
There was another engine, I don't remember what it's called, but I think it was even worse than Unity. It was another free engine that like predated Unity by like 10 years.
Oh, and some people were still using it, and they were like
worse.
recent games. I might, maybe once I finish Lifeline, maybe I'll go back into the worst Steam has to offer.
Right?
Because I was literally like, anything I saw that was $2 and less and was an actual like game and not an expansion, I was like, and purchased. So now my Steam library is hot garbage.
Well, thankfully you can sort by recently played, or if it's installed.
Nothing's installed, and I think the only thing I have right now on Steam is the new Poppy's Playtime.
Yeah!
Ferris plays that.
Oh!
You know
Chapter
that?
2 just came out, I think.
Yep, Trevor knows.
What the hell are you guys talking about?
Luna
It's just some Zoomer horror game.
Luna Bell really likes it's like kind of like an actual horror game, but it's like Five Nights at Freddy's in that the bad guy is just this like
Got these ones.
They go into a child's toy factory, and then the toys are sentient and evil.
Dude, that's messed up.
So original.
I mean, Luna's